Marcus Lopez sat in the sterile quiet of Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, room 412, watching his mother sleep. The four-drip connected to her arm released a steady rhythm of chemicals designed to kill the cancer trying to kill her. Rose's face, once vibrant and expressive, looked hollowed out by illness and treatment. But she was alive. She was fighting. And she had a chance. His phone buzzed softly. A text from Keanu. "How's she doing today?" Marcus typed back with one hand, the other holding his mother's. "Good day. She ate breakfast. Talked about wanting to make tamales when she gets home." The response came quickly. "That's wonderful. Tell her I'm holding her to that. I want the recipe." Marcus smiled despite the exhaustion, despite the surreal nature of texting casually with Keanu Reeves about his mother's tamales. A week ago, his life had been over. He'd been certain of it, certain that he'd be fired, arrested, humiliated, destroyed, that his mother would die knowing her son was a criminal, that everything he'd built over 3 years would collapse in a single moment of judgment. Instead, he was here. His mother was being treated by the best oncologist in Los Angeles. The medical bills that had driven him to desperation were paid. And somehow, impossibly, he still had his job, his dignity, and the respect of a man he'd stolen from. He couldn't make sense of it, couldn't fit it into his understanding of how the world worked. In his experience, which was limited but consistent, powerful people destroyed you when you wronged them. They didn't forgive. They didn't help. They certainly didn't pay for your mother's cancer treatment after you'd stolen $50,000 from them. But Keanu had, and Marcus was still trying to understand why. His mind drifted back, the way it had been drifting all week, to 7 days ago, to the moment when everything had come crashing down, to the phone call that had made his blood turn to ice. It had started so simply. Jenna Collins calling him on a Tuesday afternoon. "Marcus, we need to talk. Can you come to the office?" He'd been running errands for Keanu, picking up dry cleaning and a specific brand of tea that was only sold at one shop in Santa Monica. Normal assistant tasks. Mundane. Safe. Sure. Is everything okay? A pause. Too long. We'll discuss it when you get here. Marcus had driven to the office with growing dread. Jenna was Keanu's accountant, had been for 5 years. She handled his personal finances with meticulous precision. If she was calling Marcus in, it meant something financial. And Marcus knew exactly what that meant. They'd found out. Somehow, they discovered what he'd done. The careful, desperate withdrawals he'd made over 2 months. The money he'd taken to save his mother's life. He'd walked into the office building on automatic, his mind screaming at him to run, to get in his car and drive until he hit the ocean or the desert or anywhere that wasn't here. But running would only make it worse. Would make him look guilty, which he was, but at least if he faced it, he could try to explain. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor felt like ascending to his own execution. The hallway to Jenna's office stretched impossibly long. His hand shook when he knocked on her door. "Come in." Jenna sat behind her desk, her expression carefully neutral. She was 42, Chinese-American, always impeccably professional. She'd been kind to Marcus in the past, friendly even. Today she looked at him like he was a stranger. A problem to be solved. "Sit down, Marcus." He sat, waited. His heart was hammering so hard he was sure she could hear it. "I've been doing the quarterly audit. There are some discrepancies I need to ask you about." "Okay." She turned her laptop screen toward him. A spreadsheet showing transactions from Keanu's operating account. Marcus's own authorizations highlighted in yellow. $57,432. Spread over 8 weeks. His entire crime laid out in columns and numbers. "Can you explain these?" Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. What could he say? How could he possibly explain? "Yes, I stole that money. Yes, I betrayed 3 years of trust. Yes, I'm exactly the kind of person you should never have hired in the first place. Marcus, I did it." His voice barely worked. "Those transactions, they were me." Jenna's face didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or vindication that her suspicions had been correct. Why? There was that question, the one he'd been asking himself every night for 2 months. Why had he done it? Why had he thrown away everything? Why had he become a thief? "My mother is sick. Cancer. The treatment costs more than I have." More than I could borrow. I didn't know what else to do. It sounded pathetic even to his own ears. A cliché. The desperate son stealing to save his dying mother. Like something from a bad movie. But it was true. It was his life. Jenna was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, you understand this is theft. Criminal theft. I have to report this. I know. Keanu trusted you. With his accounts. His home. His life. And you violated that trust. I know. Is there anything else? Anything else you've taken? No. Just what's on that spreadsheet. I kept track. I was going to pay it back. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was going to work out a payment plan somehow. Jenna shook her head. Marcus, you make $65,000 a year. You have student loans. Rentinla. How are you planning to pay back $57,000? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. My mother was dying. Is dying? Present tense. Yes. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Without treatment, she is 6 to 8 months. Something flickered across Jenna's face then. Something that looked like sympathy. But she pushed it away, returned to professional mode. I need to call Keanu. He's in New York filming, but he needs to know about this immediately. Okay, you should probably get a lawyer. I don't have money for a lawyer. Then you should probably start thinking about what you're going to say to the police. Marcus had left the office in a fog, driven home on autopilot, sat in his apartment staring at nothing, his phone on the table in front of him, waiting for it to ring, waiting for the police to call, or Keanu, or someone to tell him what happened next. The call had come at 8 p.m., not from police, from Keanu directly. Marcus, it's Keanu. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We need to meet. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. at my office. Can you be there? Yes. Good. We'll talk then. Are you calling the police? A pause. We'll talk tomorrow, Marcus. Try to get some sleep. The line went dead. Marcus hadn't slept, had lain in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind racing through scenarios. Arrest, trial, prison, his mother dying alone while he was locked up, his name in the news, Keanu Reeves' assistant arrested for theft, his mother's shame, her final months spent knowing her son was a criminal. At 9:30 the next morning, he'd put on his best shirt, the one he wore for important meetings, driven to Keanu's office building, parked in the structure where he'd parked hundreds of times before, walked through the lobby where the security guard, Tom, had greeted him by name like always. Morning, Marcus. Big meeting today. If you only knew, Marcus had thought. Something like that. The office was on the 4th floor. Keanu rented a modest suite, nothing ostentatious. A reception area, Jenna's office, a conference room, Keanu's private office, and a small kitchen. Marcus had spent 3 years of his life in these rooms, coordinating schedules, arranging travel, handling the million small details that allowed Keanu to focus on his work. He'd been good at it, had taken pride in it, had thought of it as more than just a job. Now he was walking into these familiar rooms as a thief, as someone who'd betrayed trust, as everything he'd never wanted to become. Jenna was in the reception area, so it was a man Marcus didn't recognize. Late 50s, suit, serious expression. Private security, Marcus guessed, there to make sure he didn't do anything stupid, or to escort him out when this was over. Marcus, have a seat. Keanu will be here soon. He sat on the couch in the reception area. The couch he'd sat on countless times, waiting for Keanu to finish phone calls or meetings. The security guard stood near the door. Jenna disappeared into her office. Marcus sat with his hands in his lap, his leg bouncing with nervous energy he couldn't control, and waited. Keanu arrived at exactly 10. Marcus heard the elevator ding, heard footsteps in the hallway. Then the door opened, and Keanu walked in. Jeans, dark t-shirt, leather jacket. His hair a little longer than usual. His face serious but not angry. He looked tired, like he'd flown overnight from New York, which he probably had. Marcus. Keanu. I'm so sorry. Let's talk in the conference room. They walked in. Jenna followed, carrying a folder. The security guard stayed in the reception area. Keanu gestured for Marcus to sit at the conference table. Keanu sat across from him. Jenna sat to the side, opened her folder, pulled out the same spreadsheet Marcus had seen yesterday. Keanu looked at it for a moment, then looked at Marcus. His eyes were dark, unreadable. the eyes of someone processing something difficult. Jenna showed me the numbers. $57,432. Taken over 8 weeks. All authorized with your corporate card access. Yes. She also showed me security footage. You in my office late at night. Using the safe code. Photographing the card numbers. Marcus felt sick. Yes, that was me. Do you know what my first thought was when Jenna told me? Marcus shook his head, unable to speak. I thought, there has to be an explanation. Because the Marcus I know, the Marcus who's worked with me for 3 years, who's never been late, never complained, never asked for anything, wouldn't steal. Not without a reason. There was a reason, but it doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. But I want to hear it anyway. Keanu leaned forward slightly. Why did you do this, Marcus? What happened? And there it was. The question that could either save him or destroy him. The moment where he had to decide whether to be honest or try to minimize, to explain or to excuse. Marcus took a shaking breath. My mother has cancer. Pancreatic cancer, stage 3. She needs treatment immediately or she'll die. Her insurance doesn't cover most of it. The out-of-pocket cost is over $80,000. I tried everything. Loans, fundraising, charity programs. Nothing worked. She was getting worse. The doctor said without treatment, she had maybe 6 months. His voice broke. He pushed through. I know that doesn't justify what I did. I know stealing is wrong. But I watched my mother, who raised me alone, who worked 2 jobs to put me through school, who sacrificed everything for me. I watched her dying. And I had access to money. More money than I'd ever seen. Money that, honestly, you probably wouldn't even miss. And I thought just this once. Just to save her. I'll pay it back somehow. I'll work it off. I'll do anything. I just couldn't let her die when I had the power to save her. Tears were running down his face now. He didn't try to hide them. So yes, I stole from you. I betrayed your trust. I became exactly the kind of person I never wanted to be. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll accept whatever consequences you decide. But please don't let this affect my mother's treatment. She doesn't know what I did. She thinks I got a loan. Don't punish her for my crime. The room was silent. Jenna was looking down at her folder, her face carefully blank. Keanu was looking at Marcus, his expression impossible to read. Marcus sat there, empty, waiting for judgment. Finally, Keanu spoke. Jenna, can you give us some privacy? Keanu, legally. I know. Just give me 10 minutes. Please. Jenna hesitated, then nodded. She gathered her folder and left the conference room, closing the door behind her. Marcus and Keanu were alone. Keanu stood up, walked to the window, looked out Los Angeles stretching below them. Marcus watched his back, trying to prepare himself for whatever came next. Arrest, termination, public humiliation. He deserved all of it. When Keanu turned back, his face had changed. Still serious, but softer somehow. More human. My sister had leukemia when she was 28. This was years ago before I had money. We were trying to figure out how to pay for treatment. I remember lying awake at night thinking about what I would do, what lines I would cross, why I would steal, who I would hurt, what I would become if it meant saving her. Marcus looked up, surprised. Keanu rarely talked about his family, about his personal pain. She survived. We found a way to pay for treatment. But I never forgot that feeling, that desperation, that moment when you realize you'd burn the world down to save someone you love. Keanu sat back down, across from Marcus. So I understand. Maybe not perfectly, but I understand. I still shouldn't have done it. No, you shouldn't have. You should have come to me, told me what was happening, asked for help. I couldn't. You're my boss. It wouldn't have been right to ask you to solve my personal problems. Marcus, we've worked together for 3 years. I know your birthday. I know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar. I know you're terrified of flying, but you do it anyway, because it's part of the job. I know you send money to your mother every month. We're not just boss and employee. We're more than that. I didn't want to take advantage of that. Asking for help isn't taking advantage. It's trust. It's what people do when they care about each other. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. Keanu continued. Here's what's going to happen. That $57,000 you took, it's forgiven. It's not a debt anymore. It's gone. What? You heard me. And furthermore, I'm going to pay for your mother's treatment. All of it. Whatever she needs. The best doctors. The best facility. No limits. Marcus stared at him, not comprehending. You're going to pay for her treatment? Yes. But I stole from you. You took money in a moment of desperation. That's different than theft motivated by greed. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Keanu leaned forward, his elbows on the table. Because your mother shouldn't die, because you couldn't afford to save her. Because you're a good person who made a bad choice in an impossible situation. Because I have the resources to help, and not helping would make me complicit in a system that forces people like you into corners. Because it's the right thing to do. I don't deserve this. Maybe not, but your mother does. And you will deserve it by the way you live going forward. Marcus put his head in his hands, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. I want you to keep working as my assistant. Marcus looked up sharply. You still want me to work for you? Yes. Unless you don't want to. I want to. God, I want to. But how can you trust me? The same way I trusted you before. Except now we both know that if you have a problem, any problem, you come to me. No matter what. No more desperate decisions made alone. We face things together. Deal. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. The relief, the gratitude, the sheer impossibility of this grace was too much. He put his head down on the conference table and cried. Deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere he didn't know existed. Keanu didn't say anything. Just let him cry. After a few minutes, Marcus felt a hand on his shoulder. Gentle. Steady. He looked up. Keanu was standing next to him. It's going to be okay. Your mother's going to get treatment. You're going to keep your job. We're going to get through this. How are you so calm? I stole from you. I know. And I'm disappointed that you didn't feel like you could ask for help. That's what hurts. Not the money. The fact that you were suffering and felt like you had to suffer alone. Everyone wants something from you. I didn't want to be another person asking. Marcus, everyone does want something from me. That's true. But you've never asked for anything in 3 years. Not a raise, not extra vacation, not special treatment. You've just showed up and done excellent work. So if you had come to me and said my mother is dying and I need help, I wouldn't have thought you were taking advantage. I would have thought you were treating me like a human being who could help another human being. I'm sorry. I know, and I forgive you. Now let's figure out how to save your mother. They spent the next hour making plans. Keanu called his personal physician, Dr. Michael Chun, who referred them to the best oncologist in Los Angeles. Dr. Sarah Patel at Cedars-Sinai, one of the leading experts in pancreatic cancer treatment. Keanu made the call himself, explaining the situation, asking for an immediate consultation. Dr. Patel, this is a friend of mine. His mother needs the best possible care. Cost is not a factor. I'll handle all expenses personally. Can you see her this week? Marcus listened, still in a state of shock. This was actually happening. Keanu Reeves was on the phone with a world-class oncologist, arranging treatment for Marcus's mother, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Dr. Patel apparently asked a question because Keanu responded, yes, stage 3 pancreatic cancer. She's 58, currently not receiving treatment due to financial constraints. I want to change that immediately. Another pause. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. works perfectly. I'll have Marcus bring her in. Thank you, Dr. Patel. I appreciate it. He hung up, turned to Marcus. You're taking her to Cedars tomorrow at 2. Dr. Patel will do a full evaluation and recommend a treatment plan. Bring all her medical records. Whatever she needs, tests, scans, procedures, it starts tomorrow. Keanu, I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when she's in remission. The cost, though, treatment like this could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm aware. That's too much. I can't accept that. Keanu's face became stern for the first time. Marcus, listen to me. I have more money than I can spend in 3 lifetimes. I donate millions every year to causes I've never met. Your mother is not a cause. She's a person who raised an incredible human being. If I can help her, and I choose not to, that makes me complicit in a system that values profit over life. I won't be that person. So you're going to accept this help. You're going to take your mother to that appointment. And you're going to let me do this. Understand? Yes. Good. Now, I'm going to give you some time off. Paid leave. 2 weeks to start. Be with your mother. Get her situated with treatment. Don't worry about work. But you have the press junket next week, and the charity event, and the meetings with the studio about the new project. I'll reschedule, or I'll handle it myself. Marcus, you can't take care of anyone else if you're falling apart. Take the time. I insist. Marcus nodded, overwhelmed again. There's one more thing I need to tell you. What's that? I kept records of every transaction. Dates, amounts, what I spent the money on. Medical bills, prescriptions, transportation to appointments. I wasn't trying to hide it. I was going to confess eventually. I just needed to get her stable first. Can I see them? Marcus pulled out his phone, opened a notes app, showed Keanu a detailed spreadsheet. Every withdrawal accounted for. Every dollar traced to a medical expense. Keanu scrolled through it. You documented everything. I told you. I was going to pay it back. I wasn't stealing for myself. Every cent went to her care. I believe you. But Marcus, this proves something important. You weren't being malicious. You were being desperate. There's a difference. The law doesn't see a difference. Maybe not, but I do. And since I'm the one you took from, my opinion is the one that matters. Jenna knocked on the conference room door, opened it slightly. Is everything okay? Keanu stood. Everything's fine. Marcus is taking 2 weeks paid leave. Family medical situation. Please adjust his schedule and make sure his paychecks continue as normal. Jenna looked between them, confused. So we're not pursuing charges? No, we're not. This was a misunderstanding. It's resolved. A misunderstanding. For $57,000. Jenna, I appreciate your diligence. But this is my decision. Marcus stays. The money is written off. Case closed. Jenna looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't. Okay, I'll adjust the records. Marcus, I'll need you to turn in your corporate card. We'll issue a new one with different numbers. Of course. Marcus fumbled for his wallet, pulled out the card he'd used to steal from his employer, handed it over. His hand was shaking. Jenna took it, her expression softening slightly. I hope your mother recovers. Thank you. She left. Marcus and Keanu were alone again. You should go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Keanu, can I ask you something? Anything. Why are you doing this? Really? I know what you said about systems and doing the right thing. But there has to be more. You barely know my mother. You could fire me and never think about me again. Why go to all this trouble? Keanu was quiet for a moment, thinking, when I was younger, before I had money, I was in a situation, a bad one. Someone helped me. Someone who didn't have to, who had no obligation, but who saw that I was struggling and chose to help anyway. That helped change my life. Gave me opportunities one never would have had otherwise. And I promised myself that if I ever got to a place where I could do that for someone else, I would. Yeah, that's someone else, Marcus. Your situation is different from mine, but the principle is the same. People helping people. That's how the world should work. Who helped you? Doesn't matter. What matters is the chain continues. I help you. Someday, when you're in a position to help someone else who's desperate, you do it. And they help the next person. That's how we change things. Marcus felt something shift in him. A weight he'd been carrying for 2 months. The weight of guilt and shame and desperation. It didn't disappear. But it became bearable. Shared. I will. I promise. When I can help someone, I will. Good. Now go home. Call your mother. Tell her she has an appointment tomorrow with the best oncologist in the city. Tell her everything's going to be okay. Can I tell her about you? About what you're doing? Tell her whatever you want. I don't need credit. I just want her to get better. Marcus stood, hesitated, then did something he'd never done in 3 years of working together. He hugged Keanu, just wrapped his arms around him and held on, trying to convey everything he couldn't say. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'll never forget this. You saved us. Keanu hugged him back, steady and warm. It's going to be okay. I promise. When Marcus finally let go, his face was wet with tears. He wiped them, embarrassed. I'm not usually this emotional. You're allowed to be emotional. You've been carrying an impossible burden alone. You don't have to anymore. Marcus left the office in a daze, walked to his car, sat in the driver's seat, stared at nothing. His phone rang. His mother. Mijo, how are you? I've been thinking about you all day. Her voice, weak but trying to sound strong for him. The voice that had comforted him through every childhood nightmare, every teenage heartbreak, every adult crisis. The voice he'd been so terrified of losing. Mom, I have good news. Really good news. What is it? You have an appointment tomorrow at Cedars-Sinai with Dr. Sarah Patel. She's one of the best oncologists in the country. She's going to evaluate you and set up a treatment plan. Silence. Then, carefully, Mijo, we talked about this. We can't afford Cedars-Sinai. We can barely afford County General. It's taken care of. All of it. The appointments, the treatment, everything. How? Did you get approved for a loan? Marcus hesitated. He'd been lying to her for 2 months about where the money was coming from, telling her he'd gotten a loan, that it was being handled, that she shouldn't worry. More lies on top of the original lie. But Keanu had said tell her whatever you want. And Marcus was done lying. Mom, I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen to the whole thing before you say anything. Okay? You're scaring me. I know. But just listen. He took a breath. I took money from work. From Keanu's accounts. $57,000 over 2 months. To pay for your treatment. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know what else to do. You were dying and I had access, and I did it. Marcus, no. Tell me you didn't. I did. And they found out. Keanu found out. I thought I was going to be arrested. I thought my life was over. But instead, he forgave me. Not just forgave, Mom. He's paying for your treatment. All of it. He set up the appointment tomorrow. He gave me 2 weeks off to be with you. He's helping us. His mother was crying now. He could hear it. That man is too good. Too good for this world. I know. You have to thank him. Properly. I need to thank him. We will. But first, you need to get better. That's what he wants. That's what I want. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'm picking you up. We're going to Cedars. You're going to meet Dr. Patel. And we're going to fight this. Together. With help. I can't believe this is happening. Me neither. But it is. It's real. They talked for another 20 minutes. Rosa asking questions, Marcus answering. Both of them crying and laughing and trying to process the impossible gift they'd been given. When they hung up, Marcus sat in his car and looked at his phone. He opened his text messages, found Keanu's number, typed, "Thank you doesn't cover it. But thank you. For everything. For my mother. For my job. For seeing me as more than my worst moment. I won't let you down." The response came a few minutes later. "You never let me down, Marcus. You just got lost for a bit. We all do sometimes. What matters is finding your way back. See you in 2 weeks. Giving mother my best." Marcus drove home, spent the evening organizing his mother's medical records, making lists of questions for Dr. Patel, trying to prepare for tomorrow. But mostly he just sat, feeling the weight lift, feeling the fear recede, feeling something he hadn't felt in 2 months. Hope. The next day, Marcus picked up his mother from her small apartment in East L.A. She dressed in her best outfit, the dress she wore to church on important Sundays. Her hair was thin from the cancer, her face gaunt, but she put on makeup, tried to look presentable. "You didn't have to dress up, Mom. It's just a doctor's appointment. It's not just anything. We're meeting someone important. Someone who's saving my life. I dress up." The drive to Cedars-Sinai took 40 minutes in traffic. Rosa was quiet, looking out the window, her hands folded in her lap. Marcus kept glancing at her. This woman who'd given him everything, who'd worked herself to exhaustion to give him opportunities she'd never had, who'd never asked for anything in return. "Mom, I'm sorry. For everything. For the stealing. For not telling you the truth. For putting you in this position. Mijo, you have nothing to apologize for. I'm the one who should be sorry. If I hadn't gotten sick, you wouldn't have been in that situation. Don't say that. This isn't your fault. Cancer isn't your fault. And stealing isn't yours. You did what you thought you had to do to save me. A mother couldn't ask for more than that. Still wrong, though. Maybe. But love makes us do wrong things sometimes. What matters is we fix it. We make it right. And this man, Keanu, he's giving us a chance to make it right." They arrived at Cedars-Sinai, parked in the structure, made their way to the Saperstein Critical Care Tower where the oncology offices were. The building was impressive, modern and clean, the kind of place that screamed expensive health care. Marcus had never been able to afford to bring his mother somewhere like this. They checked in at reception. A woman in scrubs smiled at them. "Rosa Lopez." Yes, that's me. Dr. Patel is ready for you. Follow me. They were led through a maze of corridors to a consultation room. Comfortable chairs, art on the walls, a desk with a computer. A few minutes later, Dr. Sarah Patel entered. She was in her mid-40s, Indian, wearing a white coat over professional attire. Her handshake was firm, her smile genuine. Rosa, Marcus, nice to meet you. Keanu called me personally about your case. He speaks very highly of you both. Rosa looked overwhelmed. He's very kind. We're so grateful. Well, let's see how we can help. Rosa, I've reviewed the records you sent over. Stage 3 pancreatic adenocarcinoma. You were diagnosed 2 months ago. Yes. And you haven't started treatment yet? No. We were trying to figure out how to pay for it. Dr. Patel's face showed a flicker of sadness. I see that too often. People delaying life-saving treatment because of cost. It's one of the failures of our system. But we're not going to worry about cost today. Keanu has made it clear that expense is not a factor. We're going to focus on getting you the best possible care. She spent the next hour going over Rosa's medical history, symptoms, current condition. Then she outlined a treatment plan. Chemotherapy, aggressive but manageable. Immunotherapy to boost her body's ability to fight the cancer. Possibly surgery down the line if the tumors responded well. Clinical trials for new treatments if needed. I'm not going to lie to you, Rosa. Pancreatic cancer is serious. It's aggressive, but you're relatively young and otherwise healthy. If we hit this hard and early, I think we have a good chance of getting you into remission. Remission, not cured. With pancreatic cancer, we think in terms of remission rather than cure. But remission can last years, decades even. The goal is to give you as much quality time as possible. Rosa nodded, taking it in. When do we start? How about tomorrow? We'll do a full staging workup. PET scan, blood work, genetic testing. That will tell us exactly what we're dealing with. Then we start chemo next week. That fast. No reason to wait. The sooner we start, the better your chances. They scheduled everything. Marcus took notes, asked questions, tried to absorb the flood of medical information. Dr. Patel was patient, explaining everything in terms they could understand. At the end of the appointment, Dr. Patel shook both their hands again. Rosa, I know this is scary, but you're in good hands. We're going to fight this together. Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much. After they left, walking back to the car, Rosa was quiet. Marcus could see her processing everything. The diagnosis was real now. Not just an abstract threat, but a concrete battle she was about to fight. You okay, Mom? I am scared, Mio. I won't lie, but I'm also hopeful. For the first time in 2 months, I feel like maybe I have a chance. You do. You have the best doctor, the best facility. And me, I'm going to be with you every step. You have to work. Keanu gave me 2 weeks off, paid. And after that, he said I could have flexible hours. Whatever I need to be there for you. He's an angel, that man. He's something. They drove home, Rosa tired from the appointment. Marcus helped her into her apartment, made sure she had dinner, her medications, everything she needed. I want to meet him, Rosa said suddenly. Keanu, I want to thank him properly. I'll ask. I'm sure he'd be happy to meet you. Tomorrow, after my tests. If he has time. Mom, he's busy. He's filming a movie. He has a million things going on. Then he can spare 5 minutes for the woman he's saving. Ask him, Mijo. Marcus smiled. His mother, even sick, even scared, still had that core strength. That insistence on doing things the right way. Okay, I'll ask. That evening, Marcus texted Keanu. My mom wants to meet you. To thank you in person. I told her you're busy, but she's insisting. Would you have any time in the next few days? The response came 20 minutes later. I'd be honored to meet her. Tomorrow works. I'm filming until 5, but free after that. Want me to come to you, or do you want to come to set? Coming to you is too much. I can bring her wherever you want. My place. 6 p.m. I'll text you the address. And Marcus, I'm making dinner. What does your mother like to eat? Marcus stared at the text, not quite believing it. Keanu Reeves was cooking dinner for his mother. This was his life now. Apparently. She likes everything, but her favorite is Italian. Pasta. Anything with pasta. Perfect. I'll make a decent carbonara. See you both tomorrow. Marcus showed the texts to his mother. She read them, then looked at him with tears in her eyes. He's cooking for us. This man who could go to any restaurant in the world, and he's cooking for us in his home. That's Keanu. He doesn't do anything the normal way. He does everything the right way. There's a difference. The next day was a blur of medical tests. Bait skins, CT skins, bloeddruk, biopsies. Rosa was exhausted by the end of it, but she insisted on going to meet Keanu. She'd brought a change of clothes, freshened up in the hospital bathroom, wanted to look presentable. They drove to the address Keanu had texted. A house in Hollywood Hills, nice but not ostentatious. Private, set back from the road. Marcus had been here a few times for work, dropping off documents, or picking up things Keanu needed. But never socially, never as a guest. He parked in the driveway, helped his mother out of the car. She was moving slowly, the day's tests having taken their toll. They walked to the front door. Marcus rang the bell. Keanu answered, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, an apron tied around his waist. He smiled when he saw them. Rosa, Marcus, come in. Please. They entered. The house was warm, inviting. Not the sterile showcase Marcus had half expected. Books on shelves, art on walls, comfortable furniture, the smell of cooking coming from a kitchen. Rosa, how are you feeling? Tired but grateful. Mr. Reeves, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. Please call me Keanu. And you don't need to thank me. I'm just glad I can help. Still, you're saving my life. That deserves thanks. Keanu looked uncomfortable, the way he always did when people try to praise him. Let's sit. Dinner's almost ready. I hope you like carbonara. I love carbonara. My husband, God rest him, he used to make it for me. It was our special occasion meal. Then I hope mine does it justice. They moved to the kitchen, a large open space with a center island. Keanu had set the island with 3 place settings, casual but thoughtful. He served the pasta, a salad bread, poured water and wine. They ate, and Marcus watched his mother slowly relax. Keanu had that gift, making people feel at ease. He asked Rosa about herself, her life, her work. She told him about coming to America from Mexico at 22, finding work as a seamstress, raising Marcus alone after her husband died when Marcus was 10. You did all that by yourself. I did what I had to do. You do for your children. That's what parents do. Not all parents. You should be proud of what you built. Marcus is exceptional. That's because of you. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. He's a good boy. Always has been. What he did, taking that money, it's not who he is. I know. He did it for you. That tells me everything I need to know about both of you. Still, it was wrong. It was human. We all have our breaking points. What matters is how we respond when we reach them. Marcus came clean, took responsibility. That's character. They talked for 2 hours. About life, family, loss, hope. Rosa told stories about Marcus as a child. Keanu told stories about his own mother, the struggles she'd faced raising him and his siblings. There was an ease to the conversation, a genuine connection forming between these two people from such different worlds who'd found common ground in their love for the same person. As the evening wound down, Rosa took Keanu's hand across the table. Keanu, I need to tell you something. I'm going to fight this cancer with everything I have. Not just for me, but for you. Because you've given me a reason to fight. You've shown me that there are still good people in the world. People who help for no reason except it's right. I won't waste that gift. Rosa, you fight for yourself. For Marcus, I'm just honored to help. Still, I want you to know, whatever happens, you've given me hope. You've given my son his future back. That's everything. Keanu's voice was thick when he responded. You're going to beat this. I believe that. Dr. Patel is the best. You're strong. You have Marcus. You have me. You have a team. We're all fighting with you. Rosa nodded, squeezed his hand. Thank you. For the dinner. For the kindness. For seeing us as people, not just a problem to solve. You were never a problem. You're family now. That's how this works. When Marcus and Rosa left an hour later, driving home through the Los Angeles night, Rosa was quiet. Marcus glanced at her. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that man is proof that goodness exists. That money doesn't have to corrupt. That power can be used to lift instead of crush. I'm thinking we're blessed, Mijo, beyond blessed. We are. And I'm thinking you need to live up to what he's given us. Not by paying him back with money, but by being the kind of person who helps others the way he's helped us. Promise me, when I'm gone. Mom, don't. When I'm gone, whenever that is, you'll remember this. You'll pay it forward. You'll be someone's Keanu. Promise me. Marcus's vision blurred with tears. I promise. I swear to you. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve what he's done for us. Good. That's all I needed to hear. They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence, both of them thinking about grace, about second chances, about the strange and beautiful ways life could change when someone simply decided to care. 3 weeks later, Rosa started chemotherapy. Marcus was with her for the first session, holding her hand in the infusion center at Cedars-Sinai. The room was large and bright, designed to be as comfortable as possible for something inherently uncomfortable. Recliners lined the walls, each with its own 4-pole, privacy curtain, and small television. Other patients sat in various states of treatment, some sleeping, some reading, some just staring at nothing. The nurse, a kind woman named Patricia who'd been doing this for 15 years, explained everything as she set up the 4. The first session is usually the hardest because you don't know what to expect. Some people tolerate it well. Some get nauseous. Everyone's different. We'll give you anti-nausea medication first, then start the chemo. The whole thing takes about 4 hours. Rosa nodded, trying to be brave. Marcus could see the fear in her eyes. This was it. The beginning of the fight. The poison that would hopefully kill the cancer before it killed her. You okay, Mom? I'm okay, Mio. Just scared. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. The medication started flowing. Rosa closed her eyes, squeezed Marcus's hand. He sat next to her recliner, his phone in his other hand, trying to distract himself with work emails. Keanu had been texting him daily, checking in, asking how things were going. Marcus had tried to maintain some professional boundaries, not wanting to overstep, but Keanu kept pushing through them. How's she doing today? The text had come that morning. First chemo session. Nervous but ready. You with her? Of course. Good. Tell her I'm thinking about her. And Marcus, take care of yourself too. This is hard on you both. Marcus had shown Rosa the text. She'd smiled, weak but genuine. He's a good man. Don't you ever forget that. Halfway through the infusion, Rosa started feeling sick. Not terrible, but queasy. Patricia adjusted her medications, brought her ginger ale and crackers. This is normal. You're doing great. By the end of the 4 hours, Rosa was exhausted. Pale, shaky but determined. 1 down. How many more? 12 sessions total. Once every 2 weeks. Plus immunotherapy in between. I can do 12. I can do anything for 12. Marcus drove her home, helped her into bed. She fell asleep almost immediately. He sat in her small living room, surrounded by the mementos of her life. Photos of him at various ages. His high school diploma framed on the wall. A picture of his father, dead 20 years now, still watching over them. His phone rang. Keanu. Hey, how'd it go? Hard. She's sleeping now. The nurse said the first one is always the worst because you don't know what to expect. How are you holding up? I am okay. Just tired. Marcus, I need you to be honest with me. Are you eating? Sleeping? Taking care of yourself? I'm fine. That's not what I asked. When my sister was sick, I ran myself into the ground trying to take care of her. It didn't help her, and it nearly destroyed me. You can't pour from an empty cup. I know. I'm trying. Come back to work. Not full-time. Just a few hours a day. Give yourself something else to focus on. Sitting in a hospital room or your mother's apartment 24/7 is going to break you. But she needs me. She needs you healthy and sane, not burned out and depressed. Come back to work. Flexible schedule. Whatever you can manage. It'll be good for you. Marcus hesitated. Part of him wanted to say no, wanted to dedicate every moment to his mother. But another part, the part that was exhausted and scared and needed normalcy, knew Keanu was right. Okay, maybe a few hours a day. When she's sleeping or has appointments I can't be at. Perfect. Tomorrow if you're up for it. I'm doing ADR at the studio. Easy day. You could just sit in the booth with me, handle emails, ease back in. Tomorrow works. Good. And Marcus? Thank you for trusting me enough to come back. After they hung up, Marcus sat in the quiet of his mother's apartment and thought about trust. How he'd broken it by stealing. How Keanu had given it back freely. How now he had to rebuild it. Not through words, but through actions. Through showing up. Through being reliable again. The next day, he went to the studio in Burbank, where Keanu was doing ADR work, re-recording dialogue for a film that was in post-production. It was mindless technical work, and Marcus was grateful for that. He sat in the control booth, answered emails, coordinated schedules for the next month, handled the normal flow of assistant work. Keanu would occasionally glance over at him through the glass, give him a small nod. "You okay?" Marcus would nod back. "I'm okay." During a break, Keanu came into the control booth. "How's it feel being back?" "Good." "Strange, but good." "Normal." Normal is underrated. Keanu grabbed a water bottle from the mini fridge. "How was your mom this morning?" "Tired. Nauseous. But she ate some toast." The nurse said that's a good sign. It is. The fact that she's eating it all means her body is handling the treatment. "How do you know so much about this?" Keanu's face darkened slightly. "My sister's leukemia. I learned more about cancer treatment than I ever wanted to know. Became an expert by necessity." "Is she okay now?" "Your sister? She's in remission. Has been for years. But it was close. Really close. There were days I didn't think she'd make it." "What got her through?" "Stubbornness mostly. She refused to die. Just decided it wasn't happening and fought like hell. Also good doctors. And luck. A lot of luck." Keanu looked at Marcus. "Your mom has the same stubbornness. I saw it when I met her. She's a fighter." "She is." "Then trust that. Trust the fight in her." The weeks passed in a rhythm. Chemotherapy every 2 weeks. Marcus taking his mother to appointments, sitting with her during treatments, bringing her home, making sure she ate, slept, took her medications. In between, he worked, slowly increasing his hours as he found his footing again. Keanu never pressured him, never complained about the flexible schedule or the days Marcus had to cancel last minute because his mother had a bad reaction or needed emergency care. He just adjusted, accommodated, supported. Other people in Keanu's circle started to notice. Chad Stahelski, the director, pulled Marcus aside one day. "Hey, I heard about your mom. I'm sorry you're going through this." "Thank you. Keanu's told me what he's doing. Paying for treatment. That's huge. That's life-changing. It's everything. He doesn't do things like this lightly. He must really trust you." Marcus felt the weight of that. "I'm trying to deserve it." "You do. Anyone can see that. Just don't burn yourself out trying to prove something that's already proven." After 6 weeks of treatment, Rosa had her first follow-up scan. A PET scan to see if the tumors were responding to the chemotherapy. Marcus took the day off, went with her to Cedars, sat in the waiting room while she was in the machine, tried not to think about what the results might show. Dr. Patel called them into her office an hour later. Marcus tried to read her face, couldn't. She was professionally neutral, which could mean anything. "Rosa, Marcus, have a seat." They sat. Marcus held his mother's hand, both of them barely breathing. "I have good news. The tumors are shrinking. Not dramatically, but measurably. The main tumor in the pancreas has decreased by about 30%. The smaller metastases in the lymph nodes are also responding." Rosa exhaled, a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "It's working. It's working, which means we're on the right track. We'll continue with the current protocol. 6 more weeks of chemo, then we'll scan again. If we see continued improvement, we'll start talking about surgery to remove what's left." "Surgery? That means it could be cured. Let's not get ahead of ourselves." "But yes, if the tumors continue to respond and we can remove them surgically, your prognosis improves significantly. We're still a long way from remission, but this is very encouraging." Marcus felt tears running down his face. He didn't bother wiping them. "Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Thank your mother. She's doing the work. Fighting every day. That's what's making the difference." After they left the appointment, Rosa was quiet. Marcus drove them back to her apartment, kept glancing at her, trying to gauge her mood. "Mom, you okay?" "I'm thinking about Keanu. How without him, I wouldn't be getting this news. I'd be dead or dying. Instead, I'm fighting. I'm winning. Because he decided to help. We should tell him. Call him now. I want him to know." Marcus pulled over, parked on a side street, called Keanu. He answered on the second ring. Marcus, how'd the scan go? The tumors are shrinking. 30% reduction. Dr. Patel says we're on the right track. Silence. Then Keanu's voice, thick with emotion. That's incredible. Rosa, you still there? Rosa leaned toward the phone. I'm here, Keanu. And I want you to know this is because of you. You did this. No, Rosa. You did this. You're the one fighting. I just helped remove one obstacle. A big obstacle. The biggest. Without you, I'd have given up. Gone home to die. You gave me a reason to fight. You gave yourself the reason. I just made it possible. They talked for a few more minutes, Keanu asking about next steps, treatment plans, how Rosa was feeling. When they hung up, Marcus looked at his mother. He really doesn't think he's doing anything special. That's because to him, it isn't special. It's just what you do for people you care about. Most people have forgotten that. He hasn't. The treatment continued. Rosa's hair fell out completely, so she started wearing scarves and hats. She lost weight, her appetite suppressed by the chemicals coursing through her body. But she kept fighting, kept showing up to appointments, kept taking the medications, kept refusing to quit. Marcus documented it all in a journal Dr. Patel had suggested he keep. Symptoms, side effects, good days and bad days. It helped him process what was happening, gave him something to control in a situation where most things were beyond his control. He also started noticing something. The story of what Keanu had done was leaking out. Not from Marcus or Rosa, they'd been careful. But somehow someone had found out. Maybe a nurse at Cedars. Maybe someone in Keanu's office. Information like this had a way of escaping. It started small. A blind item on a gossip site. Which A-list actor is paying for his assistant's mother's cancer treatment after the assistant stole money to cover medical bills? Instead of firing him, the actor forgave the debt and covered all expenses. Then it grew. Entertainment websites picking up the story. TMZ calling it the most Keanu thing ever. People magazine wanted to do a feature. The story went from rumor to confirmed when someone leaked photos of Rosa entering Cedars with Marcus and photos of Keanu visiting the hospital on a different day. Marcus's phone exploded with media requests. Producers wanting interviews. Morning shows wanting the story. He ignored all of them, but the attention was overwhelming. Keanu called him. Marcus, I know the story leaked. I'm sorry. I don't know how it happened, but it's out there now. It's okay. I mean, it's invasive and weird, but it's okay. I've instructed my publicist to release a brief statement. Something to the effect of this is a private family matter. Please respect their privacy. It won't stop everything, but it might slow it down. Thank you. My mom is mortified. She doesn't want to be in the news. I understand. But Marcus, there's something you should know. The story is resonating. People are sharing their own stories. About medical debt. About impossible choices. About the healthcare system failing them. It's becoming bigger than us. Is that good or bad? I think it's good, if Rosa's comfortable with it, because it's shining a light on a problem that needs light. But I won't push it if you or she don't want the attention. Marcus talked to his mother that evening. There's media attention about what Keanu did, about your treatment, about what I did. People want to interview us. Rosa was sitting in her recliner, wrapped in blankets, a scarf covering her head. She looked frail, but her eyes were sharp. What does Keanu want us to do? He says it's our choice, but he thinks the story might help other people, might start conversations about healthcare. Then we do it. We tell our story, not for fame, but because if it helps one person, one family who's going through what we went through, it's worth it. You're sure? I'm sure. I was ashamed at first, embarrassed that we needed help, that you stole, that we couldn't handle it ourselves. But I'm not ashamed anymore. This is reality for millions of people. We shouldn't have to hide it. Marcus called Keanu back. We'd do one interview. Something respectful. Not tabloid. Can your publicist arrange something? I'll have her reach out to Robin Roberts at Good Morning America. She'll handle it with care. And Marcus, I'll do it with you. We'll tell the story together. You don't have to. I want to. This isn't just your story or Rose's. It's about all of us. About how we treat each other. I want to be part of that conversation. The interview was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Enough time for Rosa to have another chemo session and recover enough to be presentable. Keanu sent over a producer who did a pre-interview, asking gentle questions, making sure they were comfortable. The night before the interview, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed in his apartment, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how much had changed in 3 months. From thief to advocate, from desperate to hopeful, from isolated to supported. His phone buzzed. A text from Keanu. Can't sleep either? Nervous about tomorrow? Yeah. What if I say something wrong? What if I make things worse? You won't. Just tell the truth. That's all anyone can do. The truth is powerful enough on its own. What if people judge us? Judge my mom for being sick? Judge me for stealing? Some will. That's inevitable. But most won't. Most people understand desperation. Most people have been in impossible situations. They'll see themselves in your story. I hope so. I know so. Now try to sleep. Tomorrow is going to be intense. You need rest. Thanks, Keanu, for everything. I know I say it all the time, but I don't know how else to express it. You express it every day. By showing up. By taking care of your mom. By doing your job well. By being a good person. That's all the thanks I need. Marcus eventually fell asleep around 3 a.m., woke up at 6 to get ready. Picked up his mother at 7. They met Keanu at the ABC studios in Manhattan at 8. Jim A had flown them out, put them up in a hotel, treated them like VIPs. In the green room before the interview, Rosa looked at herself in the mirror. She'd chosen to wear a headscarf instead of a wig, wanted to be honest about the cancer. I look so different. You look strong, Marcus said. Like a fighter. Keanu entered, dressed simply in dark jeans and a black shirt. Rosa, you look beautiful. You're a liar, but a kind one. He laughed. Ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. They were led onto the set. The studio audience applauded as they walked out. Robin Roberts was waiting, warm and professional. She'd done her homework, knew the story, knew how to handle sensitive topics. The camera started rolling. Robin introduced them, gave the basic outline of the story, then turned to Marcus. Marcus, take us back to the beginning. When did you first realize your mother was sick? Marcus told the story. The phone call. The diagnosis. The desperate math of trying to afford treatment. The decision to take money. His voice shook at times, but he pushed through. I knew it was wrong. Every time I made a transaction, I knew. But I also knew my mother was dying. And in that moment, morality felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. That sounds terrible to say out loud, but it's the truth. Robin turned to Rosa. What was going through your mind when Marcus told you he'd taken money to pay for your treatment? Rosa's eyes filled with tears. I was horrified, not at him, but at myself. That my illness had driven my son to that. That our system had failed us so completely that a good person had to become a criminal to save his mother. It's wrong. It's all wrong. Robin looked at Keanu. You discovered what Marcus had done. Most people would have called the police. Why didn't you? Keanu leaned forward slightly. Because punishment doesn't solve the underlying problem. Marcus didn't steal because he's a bad person. He stole because he was in an impossible situation. Arresting him would have destroyed 2 lives, his and Rose's. It wouldn't have helped anyone. If I have the resources to actually solve the problem instead of just punishing it, why wouldn't I do that? You paid for Rose's treatment. All of it. Yes. That's extraordinary. It shouldn't be. The fact that it seems extraordinary is the problem. People shouldn't have to choose between bankruptcy and watching their loved ones die. That's not a society I want to live in. The interview continued for another 15 minutes. They talked about Rose's treatment, her progress, Marcus's return to work, the decision to share their story publicly. Near the end, Robin asked Rosa, what do you want people to take away from your story? Rosa took a breath, composed herself. I want people to know that medical debt isn't a personal failing. It's a systemic failure. I want people to understand that good people, people who work hard and follow the rules, can end up in situations where there are no good choices. And I want people to remember compassion. Keanu showed us compassion when he could have shown us judgment. That changed everything. If more people chose compassion, the world would be a different place. The audience applauded. The interview wrapped. As they walked off the set, Marcus felt drained but also relieved. They'd told their story. Now it was out in the world. What he didn't know yet was how much that story would matter. How many lives it would touch. How how many conversations it would start, how one family's desperate situation would become a catalyst for something much larger. But he was about to find out. The interview aired 2 days later. Marcus watched it at his mother's apartment, sitting next to her on the couch, both of them nervous about how they'd come across. Rosa had invited a few close friends, women from her church who'd been supporting her through treatment. They sat in the small living room, crowded but comfortable, watching the television. When it ended, there was silence. Then one of Rosa's friends, a woman named Carmen, started crying. "That was beautiful. Both of you were so brave." Within an hour, Marcus's phone started buzzing. Text messages from people he hadn't heard from in years. Old college friends, distant relatives, people from his neighborhood growing up. All of them saying some variation of the same thing. "I saw the interview. I'm proud of you. Thank you for sharing your story." But it wasn't just personal contacts. His social media, which he rarely used, exploded. His Instagram gained 10,000 followers in a day. His mentions on Twitter were overwhelmed. Most of it was positive. People sharing their own stories of medical debt, of impossible choices, of family members who died because they couldn't afford treatment. One tweet that particularly struck him: "My dad died of treatable cancer because we couldn't afford his meds." He was 54. Marcus's story is my story, except we didn't have a Keanu Reeves. We just have loss. Hashtag healthcare is a human right. There were negative comments, too. People saying Marcus was a criminal who should be in jail, that Keanu was enabling theft, that they were both exploiting a sad situation for sympathy. Marcus tried not to read those, but it was hard to avoid them completely. Keanu called that evening. "You doing okay?" I know the response can be overwhelming. It's a lot. Most of it is good. Some of it is really harsh. Ignore the harsh stuff. People who've never been desperate don't understand desperation. Their opinions don't matter. Easy for you to say. You're used to this attention. Doesn't mean I like it. But Marcus, look at the positive responses. Look at how many people are sharing their stories. That's what matters. You've given people permission to talk about something that's usually kept hidden. Have you seen the hashtag? Hashtag Keanu Compassion is trending. People are calling you a saint. Keanu groaned. "I hate that. I'm not a saint. I'm just a person who helped another person. That shouldn't be saintly. It should be normal. But it's not normal. That's why people are reacting this way. Then maybe we need to make it normal. Make compassion the default instead of the exception." Over the next week, the story continued to grow. Major news outlets picked it up. CNN did a segment on medical debt in America, using Marcus and Rosa's story as the hook. The New York Times published an op-ed by a healthcare economist, analyzing how many families were in similar situations, unable to afford necessary care. Politicians started commenting. A senator from California tweeted, "The Lopez family's story is heartbreaking and shouldn't be necessary. We need Medicare for all to ensure no one has to choose between bankruptcy and health." A representative from Texas responded, "Or we need a stronger economy so people can afford private insurance. Government health care isn't the answer." Marcus watched the political debate with a mix of fascination and frustration. His mother's near-death experience had become a political football. People were using their story to score points rather than actually solving anything. But there were also tangible results. A GoFundMe that Marcus hadn't created appeared, organized by strangers who wanted to support other families in similar situations. It raised $200,000 in 3 days. The organizers reached out to Marcus, asked if he'd help distribute the funds to families who needed help with medical bills. "I don't know if I'm qualified for that," Marcus told them on a Zoom call. "You're more qualified than anyone," a woman named Jennifer Singh said. She was a nurse from Minnesota, had started the fund after watching the interview. "You've lived this. You understand what these families are going through. We want you involved, if you're willing." Marcus looked at Keanu, who was sitting next to him during the call. Keanu nodded. "Do it. This is how you pay it forward." "Okay, I'll help, but I still have a full-time job. I can only do this in my spare time. That's all we're asking." The fund grew. Within 2 weeks, it had raised over $1 million. Stories poured in from families across the country. A father in Ohio who needed dialysis, but his insurance wouldn't cover it. A mother in Alabama whose daughter had type 1 diabetes and couldn't afford insulin. a veteran in Oregon with PTSD who needed treatment, but the VA waitlist was 6 months long. Marcus read every application. Every story felt like his own. Desperation. Impossible choix. People who'd done everything right and still ended up drowning. He started spending his evenings reviewing applications, working with Jennifer and the other volunteers to distribute funds. They couldn't help everyone. There were too many, but they helped who they could. 200 families in the first month. Each one a life changed. Each one a small victory against a system that seemed designed to crush the vulnerable. Keanu watched Marcus transform. The guilt and shame that had been weighing on him began to lift, replaced by purpose. He was still Keanu's assistant, still showed up to work, handled schedules and logistics. But now he had this other thing, this mission, and it was healing him in ways that forgiveness alone couldn't. One evening, 3 months after the interview, Marcus was working late in Keanu's home office, reviewing fund applications on his laptop. Keanu came in with 2 beers, handed one to Marcus. "You've been at this for 4 hours. Take a break. There's so many. Every time I think we're caught up, 100 more come in. You can't save everyone, Marcus. I know, but I can save some, and some is better than none." Keanu sat down across from him. "How's your mom doing?" "Good. Really good. Her latest scan showed the tumors are almost gone. Dr. Patel is talking about surgery in the next few months. If they can remove what's left, she might actually beat this thing." "That's incredible." "It is. And it's because of you. Every day she's alive is because of you. It's because of the doctors and her strength. I just paid the bills. You did more than that. You gave us hope. You showed us that the world isn't entirely cruel. That sometimes people help for no reason except it's right." Keanu was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, I want to talk to you about something. The fund you're running, it's doing amazing work, but it's also limited. You're helping hundreds of people, which is wonderful, but there are millions who need help. What if we made it bigger?" "What do you mean?" "What if we turned it into a proper foundation? Not just a GoFundMe, but an actual nonprofit with staff, legal resources, lobbying power. Something that can not just help individuals, but also push for systemic change. That's way beyond what I know how to do. That's why we'd hire people who do know. You'd be the face of it, the director, but we'd build a team around you. I provide initial funding, get some of my friends in the industry to contribute. We can make a real impact." Marcus stared at him. "You want me to run a foundation? I want you to help build one. You and people who know what they're doing. People who've been in this space for years. You'd learn. You'd grow into it. I'm not qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. You've lived it. You understand what these families are going through on a level that policy experts never will. That authenticity matters. What about my job? As your assistant, you transition out gradually. We'd hire someone to replace you, train them, make sure I'm covered. But Marcus, this is bigger than schedules and logistics. This is your calling. I can see it. You light up when you're helping these families in a way you never did coordinate in my travel." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Fear and excitement mixing together. "What would we call it?" "That's for you to decide. It's your foundation. I'm just the funding source." Marcus thought about it. About his mother. About all the families he'd been helping. About the impossible situation he'd been in and the grace that had saved him. Second Chance Medical Fund. Because everyone deserves a second chance. To live. To fight. To hope. Keanu smiled. "Perfect. Let's make it happen." Over the next 6 months, they built the foundation from the ground up. Keanu contributed $2 million as seed funding. He reached out to friends in the entertainment industry, other wealthy individuals who believed in the cause. Sandra Bullock donated $500,000. Charlize Theron donated $300,000. Smaller donations poured in from regular people, $5, $10, whatever they could afford. Marcus hired a team. Jennifer Singh from Minnesota came on as director of operations. They brought in a healthcare policy expert, a lawyer who specialized in nonprofit law, a fundraising professional. Marcus learned on the job, attending conferences, reading books on nonprofit management, talking to people who'd built similar organizations. Rose's health continued to improve. 4 months after the GMA interview, she had surgery. Dr. Patel removed the remaining tumor tissue from her pancreas. The surgery was successful. Clean margins. No sign of cancer in the surrounding tissue. Rosa was officially in remission. Marcus was with her when Dr. Patel gave them the news. They both cried, held each other, called Keanu immediately. She's in remission. The cancer is gone. Keanu's voice was thick with emotion. Rosa, you did it. You beat it. We beat it, Rosa corrected. All of us together. They celebrated with a small dinner at Keanu's house. Just Marcus, Rosa, Keanu, and a few close friends. Rosa cooked, insisted on it despite everyone's protests that she should rest. She made tamales, her specialty, the recipe she'd promised Keanu she'd share. These are incredible, Keanu said, eating his third one. You should open a restaurant. Maybe when I'm stronger. For now, I'm just happy to be alive. To be here with people I love. She raised her glass of water. Everyone else had wine, but she was still avoiding alcohol post-surgery. A toast. To Keanu, who saved my life. To my son, who never gave up on me. To Dr. Patel and her team, who fought alongside us. And to second chances. May we all use ours wisely. They clinked glasses. Marcus looked around the table at these people who'd become his family. Keanu, who'd shown him grace when he deserved judgment. His mother, alive against all odds. Jennifer and the foundation team, who'd helped him turn personal tragedy into systemic change. This was his life now. Different from what he'd imagined, but better. So much better. The Second Chance Medical Fund grew rapidly. In the first year, they helped 800 families, paid medical bills, connected people with resources, lobbied for healthcare reform. Marcus became the public face of the organization, doing interviews, speaking at conferences, telling his story over and over. It never got easier. Each time he talked about stealing from Keanu, about his mother's cancer, about the desperation that had driven him to crime, he felt the shame fresh. But he pushed through it because the story mattered. Because every time he told it, someone would come up to him afterward and say, "That's my story too," or "You just helped me understand what my sister is going through," or "Because of your foundation, my father is alive." Those moments made the discomfort worth it. 2 years after the initial theft, Marcus stood on a stage at a healthcare reform conference in Washington, D.C. 500 people in the audience, including several senators, representatives, healthcare executives. He'd been invited to give a keynote speech about the human cost of medical debt. He stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd, and felt the weight of the moment. This was it. This was what Keanu had meant about paying it forward. Not just helping individuals, but changing systems. Speaking truth to power. 2 years ago, I was a thief. I stole $57,000 from my employer because my mother had cancer and I couldn't afford her treatment. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not ashamed anymore either. Because my crime wasn't an aberration. It was a symptom of a system that forces people to choose between morality and survival. He told the story. All of it. The diagnosis. The desperate math. The decision to steal. The discovery. And then the grace. Keanu's decision to forgive rather than destroy. To help rather than punish. I was lucky. Incredibly lucky. I happened to steal from someone with the resources and the compassion to solve my problem. But here's what keeps me up at night. How many people are in the same situation I was in, but they're not lucky? They don't have a Keanu Reeves in their lives. They just have impossible choices and no good options. He pulled out his phone, read from his notes. Last month, a man in Tennessee robbed a pharmacy to get insulin for his diabetic wife. He's in prison now. His wife is dead. Last week, a woman in Florida wrote me a letter. She's considering suicide because her medical debt is crushing her family. She thinks they'd be better off with her life insurance than with her alive and bankrupting them. This is the reality we've created. This is the system we're defending. The room was silent. Marcus could see people shifting uncomfortably. Good. They should be uncomfortable. Individual charity is beautiful. Necessary. The Second Chance Medical Fund has helped thousands of families. But charity isn't enough. We can't rely on billionaires and celebrities to solve problems that should be solved by policy. We need universal health care. We need debt forgiveness programs. We need a system that treats health care as a human right, not a commodity. And we need it now. He spoke for 20 more minutes, laid out specific policy proposals, cited studies, shared more stories from families the fund had helped. When he finished, the audience stood and applauded. Several people were crying. Afterward, a senator from Vermont approached him. That was powerful, really powerful. Would you be willing to testify before the Senate Health Committee? We're holding hearings on healthcare reform next month. Yes, absolutely. Good. We need voices like yours. Real people with real stories. That's what changes minds. Marcus called Keanu that evening from his hotel room. They want me to testify before the Senate. That's incredible, Marcus. You're doing it. You're actually changing things. I'm trying. I don't know if it'll be enough. It will be. Maybe not today. Maybe not this year. But you're planting seeds. Some of them will grow. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Yes, you could have. You just needed the opportunity. I provided that. But the work, the dedication, the transformation, that's all you. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Do you ever regret it? Helping me instead of turning me in? Never. Not even once. Do you know what I regret? What? That you felt like you couldn't ask for help in the first place. That you thought you had to suffer alone. That's what breaks my heart. Not what you did, but that you thought you had no other choice. I'll never make that mistake again. And because of the foundation, hopefully thousands of other people won't have to either. That's the legacy, Marcus. That's what matters. Not the theft. Not even the forgiveness. But what you built from it. The chain of compassion that keeps extending. They talked for another hour. About the foundation's next steps. About Rosa, who is still in remission and now volunteering at the foundation office. About Marcus's life, which had become something he never could have imagined but was deeply grateful for. When they hung up, Marcus sat in his hotel room and thought about chains. How one act of grace had led to another, which led to another, which led to him sitting in Washington, D.C. about to testify before the United States Senate about healthcare reform. How one terrible decision, made in desperation, had somehow transformed into a movement. Not because the decision was good, but because someone had chosen to respond with compassion instead of judgment. Keanu had asked why instead of how could you. That single question had changed everything. Had seen Marcus as a human being in crisis rather than just a criminal. Had opened the door to redemption instead of punishment. Marcus pulled out his laptop, opened a new document, started writing. Not a speech or a proposal, but a letter. To Keanu, trying to put into words what the last 2 years had meant. How grace had transformed him. How he was spending his life trying to pass on what had been given to him. The letter was 10 pages when he finished. Too long, probably too sentimental, but honest. Completely honest. He printed it at the Hotel Business Center, put it in an envelope, would give it to Keanu when he got back to L.A. Some things were too important for text or email. Some things needed ink and paper and the weight of physical presence. Marcus lay in bed that night, thinking about tomorrow's testimony, about the senators who would listen or wouldn't, about the families depending on him to speak for them, about his mother, alive and healthy, because someone had decided her life was worth saving. And he thought about grace, how it multiplied, how it spread, how one act could ripple out and touch thousands of lives. He'd been a thief. Now he was an advocate, not because the theft was forgiven, but because the forgiveness had shown him what was possible, had shown him who he could become. Tomorrow he'd tell that story to the Senate, tell them about desperation and impossible choices, about a system that needed to change, about how individual compassion, while beautiful, wasn't enough, about how they, the people with power, had a responsibility to build a world where people like him didn't have to choose between crime and death. He didn't know if they'd listen, didn't know if anything would change, but he knew he had to try, because that's what you did when you'd been given a second chance. You used it. You fought. You built something better. For yourself, for your family, and for every person who came after, desperate and alone, hoping someone would see them, really see them, the way Keanu had seen him. 5 years after the theft, Marcus Lopez stood in the lobby of the Second Chance Medical Fund headquarters in Culver City, looking at the wall of photos. Faces of families they'd helped. Over 3,000 now, each photo accompanied by a brief story. Julia, age 7, leukemia survivor. Robert, veteran, received PTSD treatment. The Martinez family, mother's heart surgery funded. The foundation had grown beyond anything Marcus had imagined. 12 full-time staff members, an annual budget of $8 million, partnerships with hospitals across the country, a lobbying arm in Washington that worked on healthcare policy reform. They'd helped pass legislation in 4 states that limited medical debt collection practices and expanded access to charity care. His phone buzzed. A text from Keanu. You ready for tonight? Tonight, the Foundation's 5th anniversary gala. A fundraiser and celebration at the Beverly Hilton. 500 guests expected. Celebrities, donors, politicians, families they'd helped. Marcus had been planning it for months, but now that it was here, he felt nervous. As ready as I'll ever be. You still coming? Wouldn't miss it. Proud of you, Marcus. Marcus smiled at the phone. 5 years, and Keanu still had the power to make him feel seen. Valued. Like he mattered. His assistant, a young woman named Sophie Chun, appeared in the doorway. Marcus, the caterer is here with questions. And your mother called. She wants to know if she should bring extra tamales. Marcus laughed. His mother, now 63 and cancer-free for 4 years, had insisted on contributing food to the gala. She'd spent the last week making tamales, refusing to let anyone dissuade her. Tell her yes to the tamales. She'll bring them anyway, even if I say no. Already figured that out. Also, the photographer from People magazine is here early. Says they want to do a pre-event interview. Now, if you have time. Marcus checked his watch. 3 p.m. The gala started at 7. Okay, give me 10 minutes to change. He went to his office, a modest space with a desk, bookshelves, and windows overlooking the street. Changed from jeans and a button-down to the suit he'd brought for the evening. Black, well-fitted, expensive. A gift from Keanu last year, when Marcus had complained he felt underdressed at formal events. You're the face of a major foundation, Keanu had said. You need to look the part. Not for vanity. For credibility. People judge on appearance before they hear your words. Unfair but true. Marcus looked at himself in the small mirror he kept on the wall. He looked different from 5 years ago. Older, yes, but also more confident. The perpetual exhaustion had faded. The shame that had haunted his eyes was gone. He looked like someone who'd found his purpose. The interview was in the Foundation's conference room. The journalist, a woman in her 40s named Rachel Kim, had a recorder and a notebook. Friendly smile, professional demeanor. Marcus, thank you for making time. I know today is busy. Of course. What would you like to know? Let's start with the basics. 5 years ago, you stole money from Keanu Reeves to pay for your mother's cancer treatment. Now you run one of the most successful medical advocacy foundations in the country. How did that transformation happen? Marcus had told this story hundreds of times, but it never felt routine. Each telling was a reminder of where he'd been and how far he'd come. The transformation happened because someone chose grace over punishment. Keanu could have destroyed me. Instead, he asked why I did it. That question changed everything. It made me confront not just my actions, but the desperation behind them. And once I understood that, I realized my story wasn't unique. Millions of people face the same impossible choices. The foundation grew from that realization. Your mother is cancer-free now. How is she? She's thriving. She volunteers here 3 days a week, talks to families who are going through treatment, offers support. She's incredible. And your relationship with Keanu Reeves? He's family. I don't work as his assistant anymore, obviously, but we're close. He's on the Foundation's board. We have dinner once a month. He's been my mentor through all of this. Some people criticized him for not prosecuting you, said he was enabling crime. What do you say to that? Marcus had heard this criticism many times. It stung less now, but it still bothered him. I say those people have never been desperate. They've never had to choose between their morals and their loved one's life. It's easy to judge from a position of privilege. Keanu didn't enable crime. He addressed the root cause. There's a difference. The Foundation has helped over 3,000 families, but there are millions who need help. How do you deal with the fact that you can't save everyone? This question always hit hard. Marcus took a breath. It's the hardest part of this work. Every application we reject feels like a failure. But I've learned that perfect is the enemy of good. We can't help everyone, but we can help some. And those 3,000 families, Those are 3,000 lives that are different because we existed. That matters. It has to matter, or I couldn't do this job. What's next for the foundation? We're expanding, opening regional offices in Texas, Florida, and Illinois, hiring more staff. But also, we're shifting focus slightly. Individual aid is important, but systemic change is more important. We're investing more in lobbying, in policy work, in changing the laws that create these situations in the first place. Because the goal isn't to be needed. The goal is to make ourselves obsolete by fixing the system. The interview continued for another 30 minutes. Questions about specific cases, about challenges, about Marcus's personal life. He answered honestly, as he always did. Vulnerability was his currency. Authenticity was what made people trust him. When Rachel left, Marcus checked his phone. Messages from staff about last-minute gala details. A message from his mother. Mijo, I'm bringing 200 tamales. Don't argue. A message from Keanu. Just landed. See you at 7. Sophie appeared again. Marcus, there's someone here to see you. Says he doesn't have an appointment, but it's important. His name is Derek Martinez. Marcus didn't recognize the name. Did he say what it's about? He says he's considering doing something desperate, and he heard you were the person to talk to. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He got calls like this sometimes. People on the edge. People considering crime or suicide or giving up. People who'd heard his story and thought maybe there was another way. Send him in. Derek Martinez was 26, Latino, thin to the point of gaunt. Dark circles under his eyes. Hands shaking. He sat across from Marcus in the office, looking like he might bolt at any moment. Derek, I'm Marcus. How can I help you? I don't know if you can. I think I'm too far gone. His voice cracked. My daughter has cystic fibrosis. She's 5. She needs medication that costs $3,000 a month. Our insurance covers some, but not all. I work 2 jobs, but it's not enough. I'm drowning. I can't keep up. Marcus knew this story. Had lived a version of it. What are you considering doing? Derek looked down at his hands. My boss leaves cash in his office sometimes. For petty expenses. A few $1,000s. I have the code to the safe. I could take it. Use it for Sophia's medication. You probably wouldn't even notice right away. But you'd notice. Yeah, I know. And eventually, I'd get caught. But at least Sophia would have her medication for a few months. Marcus leaned forward. Derek, I need you to listen to me. I know what you're feeling right now. The desperation. The sense that there are no good options. I've been there. I stole money too. And it nearly destroyed me. But it worked out for you. You got help. Your mom is okay. I got incredibly lucky. Impossibly lucky. I stole from one of the few people in the world who would respond with grace instead of prosecution. Most people aren't that lucky. If you steal from your boss, you'll probably get arrested. You'll go to prison. And then who takes care of Sophia? Derek's eyes filled with tears. Then what do I do? Just watch her suffer? Watch her die? No, you let us help you. I don't have money to pay you. We don't charge. That's the whole point. We help families who are in situations like yours. Medical expenses they can't afford. We have funding specifically for chronic illness medication. We can help with Sophia's costs. Derek stared at him. You're serious. Completely serious. We were created for situations exactly like this. To keep people from having to make the choice you're considering. Give me your information. We'll get you into our system. Within a week, we can have Sophia's medication covered. Why would you do this? Because someone did it for me. And because you shouldn't have to become a criminal to keep your daughter alive. That's not justice. That's cruelty. Derek broke down, sobbed into his hands. Marcus let him. Got up, got him tissues and water, sat with him while he cried out the fear and exhaustion and desperation. When Derek finally composed himself, Marcus took down his information. Sophia's medical details, insurance information, income documentation, everything they need to process his application. I'll personally fast-track this. You'll hear from us by Monday. Don't do anything rash before then. Promise me. I promise. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by doing the same for someone else someday. When you're in a position to help, you help. That's how this works. After Derek left, Marcus sat at his desk and put his head in his hands. 5 years of this work, and it never got easier. Every Derek, every desperate parent, every impossible situation, it tore at him. Because he knew. He understood. He'd been there. His phone rang. Keanu. Hey, you okay? You sound stressed. Just had a walk-in. Guy considering stealing from his employer to pay for his daughter's medication. Talked him down. We're going to help him. That's what the foundation is for. I know. But Keanu, how many Derek Martinez's are out there right now? People who don't know we exist? Who are making desperate choices because they think they have no options. We're helping thousands, but millions need help. You can't save everyone, Marcus. You know that. Doesn't make it easier. No, it doesn't. But you're saving the ones you can reach. That's not nothing. That's everything to them. Marcus took a breath. You're right. I know you're right. I just sometimes feel like we're bailing out the ocean with a teaspoon. Then we get more teaspoons, bigger buckets. We build a better system. But we don't stop bailing just because the ocean is big. We keep going. When did you become so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't listening. Marcus laughed despite himself. See you tonight? See you tonight. And Marcus? What you do matters. Don't forget that. The gala that evening was more successful than Marcus had dared hope. The ballroom was packed. Celebrities mixed with regular donors, mixed with families the foundation had helped. Rosa held court near the tamale table, which had been set up alongside the fancy catered food, telling stories to anyone who would listen. Keanu arrived fashionably late, as celebrities do, but immediately sought out Marcus. How's it going? Good. Really good. We've already raised $300,000 tonight, and the auction hasn't even started. That's incredible. They stood together, watching the room. Marcus saw Derek Martinez, who he'd invited that afternoon, talking to one of the foundation's case managers. Saw families he recognized from years of work. Saw the community they'd built. Can I tell you something? Marcus said. Anything. 5 years ago, when you asked me why I stole instead of asking, how could you? That question saved my life. Not just my career or my freedom. My actual life. I was drowning in shame and guilt, and you threw me a rope. I think about that every day. How one moment of grace changed everything. Keanu was quiet for a moment. I think about it too. Not because I did something special, but because it showed me how fragile people's lives are. How one decision, one moment of judgment or mercy can completely alter someone's trajectory. It made me more aware, more careful with the power I have. You changed my life. No, I gave you an opportunity. You changed your own life. Everything you've built, that's you. Not me. It's both. It's always both. Individual effort and communal support. That's what I've learned. No one succeeds alone. We all need help. We all need grace. The program started. Speeches from board members. A video showing the foundation's work over 5 years. Testimonials from families they'd helped. Marcus was scheduled to speak last. When his turn came, he walked to the podium, looked out at 500 faces, and felt the weight of the moment. 5 years. 3,000 families. Millions of dollars raised and distributed. Lives saved. Futures secured. All because someone had asked why instead of condemning. 5 years ago, I was at the lowest point of my life. I'd stolen money from my employer to save my mother's life. I was terrified, ashamed, certain I destroyed everything. And then something unexpected happened. Instead of judgment, I received grace. Instead of punishment, I received help. That grace didn't just save me. It transformed me. It showed me what was possible when we choose compassion over condemnation. He told the story again, never tired of telling it because it mattered. Because every time he told it, someone understood their own story differently, saw their own choices in a new light. The Second Chance Medical Fund exists because of that grace. Because I was given a second chance, and I wanted to give that same chance to others. But here's what I've learned in 5 years. Individual charity, while vital, isn't enough. We can help thousands, but millions need help. The system itself is broken. A system that forces people to choose between their health and their financial survival is cruel. It's unjust, and we have the power to change it. He laid out the foundation's new direction. More policy work, more lobbying, more pressure on lawmakers to fix the healthcare system. We're going to keep helping individuals. That will always be our core mission. But we're also going to fight for systemic change. Because the goal isn't to be better at charity. The goal is to make charity unnecessary. The room erupted in applause. People stood. Marcus saw his mother crying, proud. Saw Keanu nodding, smiling. Saw Derek Martinez clapping, hope on his face for the first time probably in months. After the speeches, the auction raised another $200,000. A celebrity auction where various stars offered experiences and memorabilia. Keanu donated a motorcycle ride and dinner. Sandra Bullock donated a movie set visit. The bidding was enthusiastic, competitive, generous. At the end of the night, Marcus found himself on the balcony outside the ballroom, taking a breath. It had been intense. Wonderful, but intense. He heard footsteps behind him. Keanu, you did good tonight. We did good. This isn't just me. It started with you, though. Your story. Your willingness to be vulnerable. That's what people connect with. I'm tired of being vulnerable. Is that terrible to say? I'm tired of being the guy whose defining moment was stealing and getting caught. I want to be more than that. You are more than that. The theft is how people know your story. But the foundation, the advocacy, the lives you've changed, that's who you are. The theft is your origin story, not your whole story. Marcus looked out at Los Angeles spread below them. Millions of lights. Millions of people. Some of them struggling right now. Some making desperate choices. Some needing help they didn't know how to ask for. Do you think we'll actually change anything? The system, I mean? Or are we just putting Band-Aids on a broken bone? I think change is slow. Frustratingly slow. But it happens. 5 years ago, medical debt wasn't part of the national conversation. Now it is. Partly because of your story. Partly because of the work you've done. That's not nothing. It feels like not enough. It never feels like enough. But Marcus, imagine if everyone who had resources chose to use them the way we're trying to. To help instead of hoard. To build instead of destroy. The world would be different. Most people don't choose that. No, but some do. And those some make all the difference. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, I wrote you a letter. Years ago, after I testified before the Senate. Never gave it to you. Why not? Felt too sentimental. Too emotional. Didn't want to make things weird. Can I read it? Maybe. Someday. When I'm braver. Keanu smiled. You're already brave. But I'll wait. And Marcus? Yeah. I'm proud of you. Genuinely proud. Not just of what you've built, but who you've become. You took the worst moment of your life and turned it into purpose. Not everyone could do that. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Thank you. For everything. Then, and now, and always. Thank you for letting me be part of your story. They went back inside. The party continued for another hour. Dancing, conversation, connection. Rosa found Marcus, hugged him fiercely. Your father would be so proud. I wish he could see you. I think he can, Mom. I know he can. And Keanu Mijo, he's proud too. I see it in his face when he looks at you. He's been more than a boss. More than a friend. He's family. That's because family isn't just blood. It's who shows up, who stays, who helps. He's shown up for us every day for 5 years. That's family. The gala ended around midnight. Staff cleaned up. Guests filtered out to waiting cars and drivers. Marcus stood in the emptying ballroom, looking at the decorations that would be taken down tomorrow, the remnants of a successful evening. Sophie approached. Final count. $750,000 raised tonight. That's our biggest event ever. That's incredible. It is. Marcus, you should be celebrating. Why do you look sad? Not sad. Just overwhelmed. Thinking about all the work still ahead. All the people we haven't reached yet. You can't save everyone. Second person to tell me that today. Maybe you should listen. Marcus smiled. Maybe. Go home, Sophie. Get some rest. We'll debrief tomorrow. After everyone left, Marcus walked through the empty ballroom one more time. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Lopez, my name is Maria Gonzalez. I saw your speech tonight online. My husband has cancer. We can't afford treatment. I don't know where else to turn. Can you help? Marcus stared at the text. Another one. Always another one. The work never stopped. The need never ended. He could ignore it until tomorrow. Should ignore it, go home, get some rest. Instead, he typed back. Maria, yes, we can help. Send me your information and we'll get started. You're not alone. He hit send. stood in the empty ballroom, thought about chains of compassion, how one act of grace led to another, which led to another, which led to Maria Gonzalez reaching out at midnight because she'd seen hope in his story. This was his life now. Not just Marcus Lopez, former assistant and former thief, but Marcus Lopez, advocate, director, voice of the voiceless, builder of second chances. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but it was the life he'd earned. Through suffering, through grace, through the daily choice to help instead of turning away. He texted Keanu one more time. Thank you, again and always, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. The response came immediately. Always, Marcus. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we change more lives. Marcus left the ballroom, drove home through the quiet Los Angeles streets. Thought about Derek Martinez, who wouldn't have to steal now. About Maria Gonzalez, who would get help. About the 3,000 families and counting who'd been given second chances. About his mother, alive and thriving because grace had interrupted judgment. About himself, transformed because someone had asked why instead of how could you. The question that changed everything. The grace that kept multiplying. The chain that never ended. 10 years after the theft, Marcus Lopez stood at his mother's kitchen table in her new house in Pasadena, helping her pack tamales into containers for tomorrow's event. Rosa was 68 now, her hair fully gray but her energy boundless. The cancer was a decade behind her. 10 years cancer-free. A miracle by any measure. Mijo, you're doing it wrong. You need to fold the husk tighter or they'll fall apart. Mom, I've been doing this for 30 years. And you still do it wrong. Let me show you again. Marcus laughed. Let her demonstrate for the 100th time. These moments, ordinary and domestic, were precious. 10 years ago, he'd thought he'd lose her. Thought she'd be another statistic, another person who died because healthcare was a privilege instead of a right. Instead, she was here, bossy and loving, showing him how to fold tamales properly. His phone rang. Keanu's name on the screen. Marcus answered on speaker so his mother could hear. Marcus, you sitting down? Should I be? The bill passed. Senate just voted. The Medical Debt Relief Act. It passed 62 to 38. Marcus felt his knees go weak. He sat down heavily in one of his mother's kitchen chairs. Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Dios mío. They've been fighting for this legislation for 3 years. A federal bill that would forgive medical debt for families earning below a certain income threshold, regulate hospital billing practices, expand Medicaid eligibility, and create a federal fund to help people caught between insurance coverage and catastrophic medical expenses. It had seemed impossible, but they'd lobbied, testified, organized, pressured, and now impossibly it had passed. Are you serious? It actually passed. It passed. Not perfect. There were compromises, but it's real. The president is expected to sign it next week. Marcus, you did this. The foundation did this. We all did this. No, you led this. Your testimony 3 years ago started the momentum. Your story gave it a human face. You should be incredibly proud. Rosa was crying, her hands shaking as she clutched a half-folded tamale. All those families, all those people who won't have to go through what we went through. Marcus felt overwhelmed. How many people will this help? Initial estimates say about 4 million families will be eligible for debt forgiveness. Another 6 million will benefit from the expanded coverage and billing regulations. Marcus, you just changed 10 million lives. 10 million. The number was incomprehensible. Marcus thought about Derek Martinez, who he'd met 10 years ago, desperate and considering theft. Derek, who now worked for the foundation as a family advocate, helping others in the same situation he'd once faced. Derek, whose daughter Sophia was now 15, healthy, thriving. He thought about Maria Gonzalez, who'd texted him after the gala 5 years ago, whose husband had survived cancer and who now volunteered at the foundation, translating materials into Spanish so more families could access help. He thought about the 3,000 families that had become 10,000, then 50,000. Every application the foundation had processed over a decade. Every story of desperation and impossible choices. Every life hanging in the balance, saved or lost based on access to money they didn't have. And now, 10 million more would have a chance. Not because of charity, not because they got lucky and found a benefactor, but because the law itself had changed, because the system, slowly and painfully, had been forced to evolve. I need to call the staff. Let everyone know. Already done. I called Jennifer first. She's notifying the team. I wanted to call you personally. Marcus, this is your victory. Own it. After they hung up, Marcus sat at his mother's table, staring at nothing. Rosa put her hand on his shoulder. You okay, Mijo? I don't know what I am. This is what we've been working for. Well, I've been working for since you got sick. 10 years. And it actually happened. Your father would be so proud. I'm so proud. None of this happens without Keanu. Without him giving me that second chance. Without him asking why instead of calling the police. Everything comes back to that moment. Then he should be here tomorrow. For the celebration. Tomorrow. The foundation had planned a celebration at their headquarters, expecting to mark 10 years of operation. Now, it would also be a victory party for the legislation. Media would be there. Families they'd helped. Staff and volunteers and donors who'd made it all possible. He'll be there. He's never missed a major event. Good. He should see what his grace created. What ripples from that one decision? Marcus spent the rest of the evening making calls. To Jennifer Singh, who'd been with the foundation from the beginning and was now chief operating officer. To the policy team, who'd spent 3 years working on the legislation. To Derek Martinez, who answered the phone crying. To Maria Gonzalez, who prayed in Spanish, thanking God and Marcus and Keanu and everyone who'd made this possible. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed in his apartment, which was nicer now. He'd moved to a better place in Silver Lake 3 years ago and thought about trajectories. How lives unfolded. How single moments could redirect everything that came after. 10 years ago, he'd been a thief. A desperate, ashamed thief who'd thought his life was over. Who'd expected arrest, prosecution, the destruction of everything he'd built. Instead, he'd been asked a question. Why? That question had opened a door. Behind that door was grace. Behind grace was transformation. Behind transformation was purpose. Behind purpose was this moment, lying in bed at 2 a.m., knowing that 10 million families would be helped because he'd been helped first. The mathematics of compassion. One act multiplied by one person telling their story multiplied by thousands of people fighting for change, multiplied by enough political pressure to move an entire system. The equation that added up to 10 million lives changed. His phone buzzed. A text from Keanu. Can't sleep either? How'd you know? Because I know you. You're lying there doing the math. Thinking about all the people this will help. Wondering if you deserve credit. Feeling overwhelmed. Am I that predictable? You're that good. Marcus, I want to tell you something. When I met you 10 years ago, I saw someone competent, professional, good at their job. But I didn't see this. Didn't see the leader, the advocate, the person who would change federal policy. That was always in you. It just needed the right circumstances to emerge. The right circumstances being me committing a crime and you not destroying me for it. The right circumstances being you facing an impossible situation and discovering what you were capable of. Good and bad. Then choosing to become someone who prevented others from facing the same situation. That's character. That's who you are. Marcus felt his eyes burn with tears. I wouldn't have any of this without you. And I wouldn't understand the power of grace without you. You taught me that mercy isn't weakness. That giving someone a second chance isn't naive. That transformation is real and possible and worth fighting for. We taught each other, Marcus. That's what this has been. 10 years of teaching each other. They texted back and forth for another hour. About the legislation. About what came next. About the foundation's future. About Keanu's upcoming film and whether Marcus wanted to visit the set like old times. Eventually Marcus fell asleep, phone still in his hand, feeling something he'd spent 10 years earning back. Peace, not the absence of struggle. There would always be more work to do, more people to help, more systems to change. But peace with who he'd been and who he'd become, with the journey from theft to advocacy, with the transformation that grace had made possible. The next day, the foundation's headquarters was packed. 200 people crammed into a space designed for half that. Staff, volunteers, families, donors, journalists. The energy was electric. People kept hugging, crying, laughing. A decade of work had just paid off in ways that seemed impossible. Marcus stood at the front of the room, next to a banner that read, 10 years of second chances. Jennifer was on his left, Derek Martinez on his right. Rosa sat in the front row, next to Keanu, who'd arrived early and immediately been surrounded by people wanting to thank him. Marcus stepped to the microphone. The room quieted. 10 years ago, I stole $57,000 from Keanu Reeves. I was desperate, terrified, and out of options. My mother had cancer. Treatment cost more than I could possibly afford. So I took money that wasn't mine, knowing it was wrong, but believing I had no choice. Even after 10 years, saying it out loud still hurt. The shame never completely disappeared, but he learned to carry it differently, not as a weight that crushed him, but as a reminder of where he'd been and why the work mattered. I got caught. I confessed, and I expected to lose everything. Instead, I was asked a question that changed my life. Keanu asked me why. Not how could you? Not what were you thinking? Just why. That question saw me as a human being instead of just a criminal. It opened the door to grace, to forgiveness, to transformation. He told the story again. Would always tell it, because it mattered, because people needed to hear that redemption was possible. That mistakes didn't have to be permanent. That grace could change everything. The Second Chance Medical Fund was born from that grace, from the idea that if I'd been given a second chance, others deserve the same. Over 10 years, we've helped over 50,000 families. We've distributed over $200 million in aid. We've provided legal support, advocacy, resources, hope. Applause interrupted him. He waited for it to die down. But individual charity was never enough. We always knew that, because for every family we helped, 100 more were suffering. The system itself was broken. So we decided to fix the system. We lobbied. We testified. We organized. We pressured. We made medical debt impossible to ignore. And yesterday, after 3 years of fighting, the Medical Debt Relief Act passed the Senate. When the president signs it next week, 10 million families will benefit. 10 million people will have access to health care without being destroyed financially. That's what grace looks like when it's written into law. The room erupted. People standing, cheering, crying. Marcus saw his mother weeping. Saw Derek with his arm around his daughter Sophia, both of them overcome. Saw Maria Gonzalez holding her husband, who'd survived cancer and was now thriving. Saw the faces of dozens of families who'd been helped, who'd fought alongside them, who'd refused to accept that health care should bankrupt people. And he saw Keanu, standing in the back now, having moved away from the front row to let the families have the spotlight. Keanu, who was watching with quiet satisfaction, who'd started this chain reaction with a single question, who'd proven that power could be used to lift instead of crush. Their eyes met across the room. Keanu nodded, smiled, mouthed something that looked like proud of you. Marcus nodded back, unable to speak around the emotion clogging his throat. When the applause finally died down, Marcus continued. I want to introduce someone. Derek Martinez, come up here. Derek looked startled, but came forward. Stood next to Marcus at the microphone, uncomfortable with the attention. 10 years ago, Derek came to my office. He was considering stealing from his employer to pay for his daughter's medication. He'd heard my story and thought maybe there was another way. We helped him, covered his daughter's medical costs. And then Derek joined our team. He's now our director of family services. He's helped thousands of people who were in the same desperate position he once was. Derek, tell them what you told me last week. Derek cleared his throat, nervous. Last week, a guy came into my office. Said he was thinking about robbing a pharmacy to get insulin for his wife. Said he heard about the foundation, but didn't think we could help fast enough. I told him my story, about how I almost stole, about how the foundation helped me instead, about how his life didn't have to be defined by one desperate decision. We got his wife's insulin covered within 48 hours. He called me yesterday, crying, thanking me, said I saved his life. Derek's voice broke. I saved his life because Marcus saved mine, because Keanu saved Marcus. That's how this works. Grace doesn't end with one person. It multiplies. It spreads. Everyone in this room is part of that chain. Everyone here has been touched by that original act of mercy 10 years ago. And now, with this legislation, 10 million more people will be part of it. That's the legacy. That's what matters. The applause was deafening. Marcus hugged Derek, who was crying openly now. They stood together, two men who'd both been on the edge of crime, who'd both been shown grace, who were now dedicating their lives to extending that grace to others. After the formal program, the event became a party. Food, conversation, celebration. Marcus moved through the room, hugging people, accepting congratulations, feeling overwhelmed by the love and support. He found Keanu outside on the small patio behind the building, getting some air. Keanu was on his phone, finishing a conversation. He hung up when he saw Marcus. Hiding from your own party? Just needed a minute. It's intense in there. It is. Good intense, though. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Marcus said, I have something for you. Been carrying it around for years. Waiting for the right moment. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. Worn from being carried, the edges soft. Remember I told you I wrote you a letter? After I testified before the Senate 5 years ago. I remember. This is it. I've rewritten it a dozen times. Added to it. Every time something major happens, I add more. It's 10 pages now. Probably too long. Definitely too sentimental. But it's honest. Keanu took the envelope, held it carefully. Can I read it now? If you want. Though maybe somewhere more private. It's pretty emotional. I'll read it tonight. At home. With the attention it deserves. Keanu, before you do, I need to say something. Thank you doesn't cover it. Never has, never will. You saved my mother's life. You saved my life in me when I didn't believe in myself. You showed me that grace is real and powerful and transformative. Everything I am, everything I've built, everything this foundation has accomplished, it all traces back to you asking why instead of condemning. That question changed the world. My world. And now, 10 million other people's worlds. That's your legacy. Keanu's eyes were bright with emotion. Marcus, my legacy is getting to know you. Getting to watch you transform. Getting to be part of something that actually matters. I made a lot of movies. Some good, some less good. But this, what you've built, what we've built together, this is the thing I'm most proud of. Not because I did it, but because I got to witness it. Got to be part of the chain. They hugged, long and tight. Two men who'd met as employer and employee, who'd navigated crisis and grace, who become family. When they separated, Marcus wiped his eyes. You should go back inside. People want to thank you. They should be thanking you. They're thanking both of us. That's the point. We're all in this together. That evening, after the party ended, Marcus drove to his mother's house. She was sitting on her porch, enjoying the cool evening air. He sat next to her. Hell of a day, Mijo. Hell of a day. Your father would be so proud. I wish he could have seen this. I think he did. Somehow, Rosa took his hand. I need to tell you something. I know I've said thank you a million times. To you, to Keanu, to the doctors. But I need to say it again. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for loving me enough to risk everything. I know what you did was wrong, but I also know why you did it. And I'm grateful. Every day I'm alive is a gift you gave me. Mom, let me finish. I am grateful. But I'm also sorry. Sorry that you were put in that position. Sorry that our system failed us so badly that you had to choose between morality and my life. That should never have happened. And the fact that it won't happen to 10 million other families, that's because you turned your worst moment into purpose. That's my pride. Not that you saved me, but that you saved so many others. Marcus leaned his head on her shoulder like he had as a child. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Mijo. More than you'll ever know. Meanwhile, across the city, Keanu sat in his home office, Marcus's letter in front of him. He poured a glass of wine, settled into his chair, and was finally reading the 10 pages Marcus had written over 5 years. The letter started with the immediate aftermath of the theft. Marcus's shame, his terror, his certainty that his life was over. Then the moment of grace. The question that had changed everything. Page after page of gratitude, of reflection, of Marcus trying to articulate what that moment had meant. But the letter wasn't just about the past. It was about transformation, about how grace had given Marcus permission to become someone different, someone who helped instead of hid, someone who fought instead of accepted, someone who turned personal tragedy into systemic change. The last page was dated yesterday, added after the legislation passed. Dear Keanu, 10 years ago you asked me why. Today, 10 million families will benefit from that question, from the grace that followed it, from the transformation it enabled. I've spent a decade trying to repay you, trying to be worthy of what you gave me, and I've realized that's impossible. I can never repay you. The debt is too large, but I can pay it forward. I can extend the same grace to others. I can ask why instead of how could you. I can choose mercy over judgment. I can build systems that make grace unnecessary by making healthcare a right. That's the payment. Not repaying you, but extending the chain. Making sure your grace multiplies instead of ending with me. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for showing me that redemption is real. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to do for others what you did for me. With love and eternal gratitude. Marcus. Keanu set the letter down, his vision blurred with tears. He thought about that day, 10 years ago. The call from Jenna about the missing money. The decision he'd had to make. Prosecution or grace. Judgment or understanding. Destruction or transformation. He'd chosen grace. Not because he was a saint. Not because he was special. But because he'd seen someone suffering and had the power to help. It had seemed simple at the time. Obvious, even. Of course you helped. Of course you asked why. Of course you chose mercy. But that simple choice had rippled out in ways he never could have imagined. One man helped became a foundation, built became thousands of families, aided became 10 million people's lives changed by legislation. The mathematics of compassion. One act multiplied infinitely. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Did you read it? Just finished. Marcus, it's beautiful. Thank you. Did I make you cry? Maybe a little. Good. You made me cry 10 years ago. Fair's fair. Keanu smiled through his tears. What's next for you? For the foundation? Rest. Then more work. The legislation is huge, but it's not perfect. There's still gaps. Still people falling through cracks. We keep fighting. Keep building. Keep extending the chain. Need any help? Always. You're stuck with me, you know. Can't get rid of me now. Wouldn't want to. You're family. You too. Always. Keanu set down his phone, looked at the letter again. 10 pages of transformation. 10 pages of grace multiplied. 10 pages that proved redemption wasn't just possible, it was powerful. He thought about his own life. The losses he'd suffered. His sister's illness. His struggles. The moments when he'd needed help and sometimes gotten it, sometimes not. He'd learned young that the world could be cruel. That loss was inevitable. That suffering was part of existence. But he'd also learned that cruelty didn't have to be the default. That in the midst of suffering, there was room for grace. That one person choosing mercy over judgment could change everything. Marcus had been his teacher as much as he'd been Marcus's. Had shown him that grace wasn't wasted. That betting on someone's better nature instead of their worst moment was worth the risk. The Grace Initiative, focused on helping people in crisis, whatever the crisis is. Medical, legal, housing doesn't matter. If someone's desperate and asking for help, we help. Can we talk tomorrow about setting it up? The response came quickly. Of course. This is beautiful, Keanu. Amount. Let's start with 5 million. We'll grow it from there. Done. I'll have details tomorrow. Keanu looked at his reflection in the darkened window. 59 years old. Successful by any measure. But success wasn't movies or money or fame. Success was this. Using what you had to help people who needed it. Extending grace. Building chains of compassion that never ended. He thought about Marcus, probably at home now, exhausted from the day's emotion. About Rosa, alive and thriving a decade past her death sentence. About Derek Martinez and his daughter Sophia. About the 10 million families who would benefit from legislation that Marcus had fought for. About grace. How it multiplied. How it transformed. How one decision to show mercy instead of judgment could ripple out and touch millions. That was the story, not the theft. not even the forgiveness. But what came after? The transformation, the chain, the proof that people could change, and that change could change everything. Keanu stood, stretched, headed to bed. Tomorrow he'd start building the new fund. Tomorrow there would be more people to help, more grace to extend, more links to add to the chain. But tonight he just felt grateful. Grateful for Marcus. Grateful for the journey. Grateful for the proof that grace was real and powerful and worth fighting for. 10 years after asking why instead of how could you, 10 million lives changed. The chain continuing, forever extending, proving over and over that mercy was stronger than judgment, that redemption was real, that grace was the most powerful force in the world. One question at a time, one person at a time, one act of compassion multiplied infinitely. That was the story. That was the legacy. That was everything.